What do you charge for filmmaking or photography? Today I'm going to share with you guys how much I charge to go on a production, to take on a project, and how things can vary and maybe be able to help you out how to price yourself. Now I'm going to go ahead and give you the rates and jump into how I break those down and how I offer extra services. Now the first one that I do is cam op. Now when I cam op, it means that I show up, production has a camera for me, and I operate a camera. That's it. That's typically like your B cam, or if you're A cam, director knows how to DP and they are handling that side. That should not be one of your worries on how to light and how to do any of that, because you're just the camera operator. Now, of course, that doesn't mean I don't play ball, and if there's help, I jump and help around depending the size of the production, of course, but all of this would have been discussed prior to getting hired. Now, gaffing, I charge $600 for my day rate. And gaffing, I typically work with other fellow DPs because they've seen me work, they've seen my work, and they understand that I know the equipment and I can get them the look that they want. Now, my DP rate is $750. And I wanted to touch into DP and cam op, right? When you're the DP, you're in charge of gaffer and grip and the whole entire crew that's the production, because you're in charge of getting the look that the director wants, the look that the production is looking for. Now, all of these things, of course, there's been calls prior to make sure we have all the right equipment, your gaffer, if your cam op, if your DP, all of these variables play into the production. But as a DP, you have the say in how lights and everything gets set. And that's where it differentiates from the camera. It's a bigger responsibility. As a DP, I do camera operate. I haven't had a shoot where I don't operate camera. Typically, I'm DP camera. That's basically what I do. Now, if I'm taking a project that is smaller in size, as in crew and everything, and I'm gonna be taking a role of a director and DP and the camera basically, then my rate is going to be averaging $1,200 for the day, because it's a much bigger responsibility, right? We didn't have the budget for a director because, you know, they can cost a lot. So I have to make sure the story is going the right way. I have to make sure the visuals look right. It's just a lot to do. It might not seem like it's a lot, but once you're rigging frames, once you're going over the script and making sure that everything's being said, that's where you need a bigger crew in order to make zero mistakes. That things will always happen. No production ever goes perfect. We go overtime. Somebody forgot something, but you have to make it work. So for that, I charge $1,200. This is typically running documentaries, again, short commercials. That's when my rate goes much higher. But these rates do not include camera, lighting, none of that. Of course, it depends who I'm working with. If it's with my project or so, I might include my Sony a7 IV, I might include one light. But at the minute that I'm pulling out 4 or 5 C-stands out of my truck, then I'm gonna charge for a grip rental. If I'm pulling 3, 4 lights, then I'm gonna charge for a lighting packet. Now, yes, I did invest into a grip truck if you've been following the channel. So for that itself, I charge $500 to rent my lighting and my grip package. And I've now started to kind of split what I'm offering, because it was a little bit overkill with my lights. So some are a la carte and some are just included in there. And like I mentioned, I don't bring a camera really when it's a commercial shoot. I typically charge for my rental. If it's my FX6, I charge $250 and my FX3 $150. Now these are very low rates, because if you don't bring me on board with my FX6 rental, production still needs a cinema camera, and maybe they already have an FX6. So the rental of an FX6 itself is about $400. And it's just a simple camera packet. Like, you're not gonna come with lenses. Maybe it comes with one if you're lucky enough, but it probably won't have a cage. You might only have 1 or 2 batteries. There might be 1 or 2 memory cards. Like, there's a lot of those variables that come into play where my packet is ready to go with an external monitor, with extra batteries. I have everything. Now, I do as well take half day rates. I know a lot of people are opposed to them. I don't like getting half day rates. I'll take them if it's like the next day, or if it's a production that I've already started, more or so my own production. Like if it's my project, I'm working directly with the client, not with another agency, and it makes sense to just do a half day rate. My half day rate is $450. Now this $450, I try to account my editing and everything, because it might be a really small gig, but maybe you have to do more pre-production, or maybe you have to do a more intense editing. So that would all account for what I'm charging. But if it's, like I mentioned, a project that I already bid on for editing, for all of this stuff, and I'm just showing up for an hour locally, then yeah, $450 would be my starting point, and working around that depending on the client's budget. Now, the way I would word this and the way I explain this is I have to pay for my equipment. If something happens to my camera the next day and I have a shoot a day after and I don't have it, it got stolen or broken, I have to rent that gear. And that gear is gonna cost me about $150. Yes, it's a 1 hour shoot, but if I have to pull a 6x6 frame and I have to pull 4 lights, one that's a 600D and let's say one's a 1200D or so, 1200 is a little overkill, let's say another 300D. That's a lot of equipment in terms of rentals to be charging $450, you know? So I would bill the equipment depending how expensive it is and what I need to do. Now for stills photography, that one varies a lot because photography can be a one-stop shop, like headshots, right? If it's just simple headshots, I've been working at $350, one retouched, and that's pretty much it. I might send a whole gallery, but simple editing, maybe 20 photos at the most, but only one retouch. So that one I still work around with depending who the client is, how many headshots I'm doing. More fashion, more creative stuff, that's different because photography, I might need that digital. Like it's almost a must if it's a bigger production. So either I bring the Digitech or they bring me, but I want to work with the people that I want to work. So you're looking at different rates, right? For photography, that's more around the 1200 for a whole day if it's me directing and doing everything. And then my Digitechs, and then my gear, right? I can work around all that stuff, but I have done some shoots for 600 for a 10 hour, and it was just simple, had somebody directing, had a Digitech they brought on board, but 600 was just me and then some gear and stuff. But photography varies way more because it can be, say you do weddings, say you do commercial work, say you do restaurant work, all of those are different prices. But when you get into like commercial filmmaking and all that, it's typically a day rate. So your day rate for me, 10 hours, your half day rate for me, 4 hours. Don't ask me why, I don't want to do 5 hours because 4 hours is already, you know, you cannot get 2 productions in a day. So keep this in mind, guys, when you're billing, when you're sending out a bid, make sure you account for all the gear you're gonna bring, for your day rate. And this all goes down to what you're comfortable with. I'm comfortable charging those rates because I've worked in production, I've worked in commercials. Now that helps me to understand what others are charging close, right? But I've heard of DPs charging $1,200 for a day. That's just them showing up and directing the image, right? So things will vary a ton. If you really have no clue where you're at, then I would start at about $80. You know, if you got the cheapest camera around there, you build the portfolio. Next client, you charge them $120. The next client, you charge them $180, $200, $250, $300, and that's how you end up building this type of work. I know photographers charging $400 for a session for a 1 hour family photo shoot. So there's money in all these spaces, but it's just how you structure your business and how you build up to that. Because if you charge one person $400, but you don't have a portfolio to show your work, who's gonna hire you at $400? It's gonna be very difficult to grow that clientele. And there's so many things you get to learn on client management, delivery of photos, what you do after delivering the photos, if they want more revisions or, you know, they want a longer shoot, they want many variables that play into what you're going to charge. So keep in mind everything I've just mentioned, especially if you're gonna hire crew and all these things. But those are my current rates. They might fluctuate. I am adding production fees now when it's a bigger project and it's part of like my production company because I wanna make sure that I can account for hiring somebody and it makes sense for my business. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you learned something, I know I rambled a ton of the time, let me know what you guys wanna hear. And I would love to know, are my rates high or my rates low? What are you charging? All right, guys, I'll see you